do the right thing, put our Jets back in the fight, do the right thing, and stop these atrocities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman will have 5 minutes for questions once we return from question period. We'll be breaking now. Statements by members, déclaration de député, l'honorable député de London West.
Honourable member for London West.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge the work of Jennifer Miller, a passionate and determined mother in London. Jennifer's two daughters, Haley and Lily, were both diagnosed with type 1 diabetes under the age of 10. Walking the Line for Diabetes 2016 was a passion project Jennifer created to bring awareness and make a difference in the future of all diabetics in Canada. She began her journey from the steps of London's own Banting House, the birthplace of insulin, to Parliament Hill. On June 6th, Jennifer Miller completed her mission of walking 1,000 kilometers across Ontario. Canadians such as Jennifer Miller have the power to change the conversation from a sense of defeat to empowering others who have been affected by this growing epidemic. Congratulations, Jennifer. The people of London, as well as all Canadians, walk alongside you.
The honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, on July 8th, the greatest outdoor show on earth will kick off with the annual spectacle of the Calgary Stampede Parade. As a past Calgary Stampede Board of Director, I am pleased that award-winning singer-songwriter Jan Arden and homegrown country music superstar Paul Brandt will lead our 2016 Calgary Stampede Parade. These two great Calgarians, both 8-time Juno Award winners, will lead more than 150 Western-themed entries, including 30 marching bands, 40 floats, 750 horses, and 250,000 people along the parade route. It's not just a parade marching down the avenue, Mr. Speaker. It's a march through tradition, history, and local Calgary culture. While our Western roots are strong, we've also got multicultural flair with many people traveling from all over the world to walk and ride in our parade. I invite all Canadians to come down to Calgary this July.
Honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in celebration of the Guelph Multicultural Festival. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the festival, and I'm proud to say that our diversity has only increased since the festival began. Guelphites from a variety of backgrounds and from around the world will come together to share food, music, fashion, and good company. It's cross-cultural events like these that demonstrate not only how diverse our community is, but also how Guelph lives up to the Canadian values such as acceptance, understanding, and inclusion. I would like to thank Delfino Caligari and all the volunteers who have worked tirelessly to make this festival a tremendous success over the last 30 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver East.
The City of Vancouver has released its finding for its 10th homelessness count, and the results are heartbreaking. Over a 24-hour period in March, staff and hundreds of volunteers counted a record-breaking 1,847 homeless people in Vancouver, a 6% increase from 2015, of which 38% of the homeless population are Aboriginal peoples. This is a city where the Aboriginal population is only 2.5%. The count also saw an increase for those on disability and those who have employment income. Homelessness is increasing, and to make matters worse, Canada is at risk of losing 21,000 low-income co-op units across the country, and for BC alone, it's 4,000 units. Canada needs a long-term national affordable housing program and not just a 2-year short-term initiative. Let's get on with it. No more Band-Aids, no more excuses. Real change means a real long-term national affordable housing program.
The honourable member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since 1974, young families and athletes in Laval have relied on the Fabrose Soccer Club for its various services to players, coaches, referees, and other volunteers. As honorary chair of the 2016 Fabros Grand Finale, I rise today to highlight the contribution of these volunteers to our community. Mr. Speaker, with summer finally here, I invite everyone in Marc-Aurèle-Fortin and their families to join us this weekend at the Minotaurs Recreational Soccer Tournament. This local festival promotes participation, team spirit, and being active. The positive encouragement of parents and sporting values will be on offer at Marc-Aurèle-Fortin in Fabreville. To the Fabros Soccer Club.
All the volunteers who support sports club from coast to coast to coast, je dis...
I say thank you and bravo.
For York. The honourable member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, this year marks a new beginning for Canada's greatest sports franchise, the Toronto Argonauts. They are returning to the shores of Lake Ontario as they start their season in their new home at BMO Field. Proud tradition meets innovation in the Toronto Argonauts organization. New president Michael Copeland is providing inspired leadership. COO Sarah Moore will head up this year's Grey Cup celebrations in Toronto. CFL Hall of Famer Michael Pinball Clemens continues to play an important role in the Argos organization as vice chair of the team and also with his tireless work with charities, schools, and community groups. Canadian football is a unique game. It's part of our Canadian identity. It helps make us who we are. Its history is part of our history. Among those adding new pages to the Argos' 143-year, 16 Grey Cup history will be offensive lineman Corey Watman, York Simcoe resident who comes from Queensville. With a revamped defense and the return of Ricky Ray at quarterback, Argos fans have a lot to cheer about as they aim for a hometown Grey Cup this year.
Member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, on June 12th, Filipino Canadians across the country will celebrate Philippine Independence Day, marking the 118th anniversary of Philippine independence. As an executive on the Canada-Philippines Interparliamentary Group, I had the privilege to stand today with their ambassador and raise the Philippine flag on Parliament Hill. All across Canada, Filipino Canadians make great contributions. Their hard work, active role in our communities, and boundless spirit make our country a richer place for all of us. Today, Canada is proud to be home to one of the largest and fastest growing Filipino communities in the world, many of whom call my riding of York Centre home. Toronto's Little Manila is in the heart of my riding, and this weekend I will be celebrating the many contributions the Filipino community makes to Canada. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my constituents and to everyone in this House, mabuhay!
Bravo. The Honourable Member for Brassard-Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, around the world on June 10th, the Portuguese diaspora celebrates Portugal Day. The culture and the language which unite us are among the many things that we will celebrate. I would like to take this opportunity to honor the millions of Portuguese living around the world and who have brought with them much more than the wine and the chorizo. Above all, a Portuguese who leaves Portugal exports a very unique way of living in and with the world. The contributions of Portuguese expatriates in their new countries are well known and generally greatly appreciated. So today, I join with this great family and with all the diaspora to wish everyone a very happy Dia de Portugal. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Lévis. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This year, the Grenier de Lévis Food Bank celebrates its 25th anniversary. Last year, almost 5,800 food hampers were distributed to help many vulnerable individuals and families in Lévis. Over the last 25 years, 73,000 food hampers have been distributed and 140,000 meals have been served. I wish to thank the volunteers and staff for their success and for the important work that they do to help the least fortunate among us. I wish specifically to thank and highlight the work of Chair Yvon Gosselin, who received the Medal of the National Assembly for his contribution to our community. On July 3rd, I will join 20 other intrepid swimmers in swimming across the St. Lawrence to save the soup kitchen. You can give the cost of a meal at www.traversesaintlaurent.ca. Congratulations to Yvon Gosselin and all his team. Long live the Comptoir de Grenier de Lévis.
Don Valley West.
Speaker, the first week of June is Aphasia Awareness Week. A third of all Canadians who suffer a stroke will develop aphasia, a condition that makes it extremely difficult, at times impossible, to speak to others. People who have aphasia still retain their intelligence, their competence. They just need to find a new way to communicate their thoughts and feelings. Aphasia affects every relationship, almost every daily activity. Those affected cannot carry a conversation on as before, read a book, or send emails. They're likely to lose their job. Aphasia Awareness Week focuses attention on the often misunderstood condition, salutes healthcare professionals, researchers, and thousands of family members and volunteers across the country who provide treatment, training, and hope for people with aphasia. I especially salute the Aphasia Institute in North York, a place of courage and compassion, of competent professionals, amazing volunteers. Please join me in commemorating Aphasia Awareness Week.
The honourable member for Nipissing Temiskaming.
Mr. Speaker, on November 29, 2014, Tammy Penner, the owner of Watch Me Grow in Style, suffered a major loss after the building that housed her small business burnt to the ground in downtown New Liskeard. She lost everything. However, in the face of adversity, Tammy forged ahead and was determined to rebuild. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to inform this House today Watch Me Grow in Style celebrates its grand reopening in their new location at 27 Armstrong Street in New Liskeard. Tammy's strength and perseverance in the face of adversity is a true testament of her Northern Ontario spirit of resiliency. Please join me in congratulating Tammy on the grand reopening of Watch Me Grow in Style.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, summer is a beautiful time in friendly Manitoba, and this is especially true in my riding of Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman, where you can enjoy some of the best beaches on Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba, or enjoy fairs and festivals all summer long. Well, this weekend, summer truly kicks off my riding with the Lundar Agriculture Fair, and there's much more to take in. This year is the 50th anniversary of the Selkirk Highland Gathering and Heavy Games that celebrate the colourful Scottish culture and heritage. In Gimli, you can celebrate the Icelandic Festival of Manitoba, Isla Diggadagarin, or take in the world-renowned Gimli Film Festival. If you're looking for something with a little more kick, well, you have to stop in at some of the MRCA accredited rodeos in Selkirk, Beausejour, Arberg, or Ashern. For the history buffs, we have the Lower Fort Garry National Historic Site where you can explore the fur trade. Or there's also Matey's Days, Winnipeg Beach Boardwalk Days, Lac du Bonnie's Fire and Water Music Festival, and Ericsdale Creamy Days, just to name the few festivals I have in my time. I extend an invitation to Canadians from coast to coast to coast to come to Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman, and experience the friendly people, rich culture, and our natural beauty. Hear, hear.
Member for Winnipeg North.
And for Schultz.
Ask her if she's ready to do her.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to inform the House that this week we celebrate Canadian Environment Week. This year's theme is Why Climate Action Matters to You.
The effects of climate change are being felt here and around the world, and they are impacting our weather, our wildlife, air quality, our oceans, and especially our Indigenous peoples.
This government is working hard to get the solutions Canadians want to fight climate change and grow our economy. We invite the members of this House, and indeed all Canadians, including Indigenous peoples, to mark this year's Environment Week by submitting their climate action ideas to letstalkclimateaction.ca. I'm delighted we're moving forward with the enhancing ecological protection for Rouge National Urban Park. Mr. Speaker, let us reflect, discuss, and propose what we can do individually and collectively to protect our environment and foster clean...
The honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to the hard-working women and men in agriculture in my riding of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford, and their important role in local food security. Blessed with Canada's only maritime Mediterranean climatic zone, the Cowichan region is continually making a name for itself as a region capable of producing a wonderfully diverse range of high-quality, farm-fresh produce, artisanal foods, and beverages. Whether it's organically grown produce of our numerous community-supported agriculture programs, the very fine wines of our many and award-winning wineries, or the delectable pork, beef, lamb, chicken, turkey, and eggs raised from our pastures Our farms have what it takes to allow every visitor to sip and savor their way through a beautiful summer. As an owner of a small-scale farm myself, I am proud to stand here in support of our local food and drink producers and their role in making our region a highlight for the thousands of visitors who come to Vancouver Island every year.
The member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in solidarity with the people of Six Nations. Last week, a senseless act of violence on Six Nations territory left 3 people wounded, including 16-year-old Ashton Van Every, whose life came to an end far too soon. A student at Brantford Collegiate Institute, Ashton has been described by his friends and family as someone who had a good head on his shoulders and was always smiling. The Six Nations of the Grand River, Canada's largest First Nation, is a resilient community with strong leadership. I know they will come together in support of all those affected during this trying time with resolve to restore peace to the community. I invite all members of this House to join me in solidarity and support of the victims, their families and friends, and the entire Six Nations community. And to Ashton's family, we extend our deepest condolences. Please know that you are in our thoughts and prayers.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to bring attention to a special constituent in my riding. Marjorie Brewster is 86 years young and has volunteered at the South Lake Regional Health Centre's Pediatric Oncology Clinic for the past 27 years and can be found there 4 days a week. Marjorie lost her own son to leukemia when he was only 9 years old. She treats the children at the clinic as if they were her own. She spends her own money on toys for children who are undergoing cancer treatment and brings joy to them and their families. She's a shining light for these families during some pretty dark days. Marjorie has been awarded the prestigious Human Touch Award by Cancer Care Ontario, celebrating the unsung heroes on the front lines of cancer patient care. Marjorie is a shining example of the positive impact one can have in their community through volunteerism. You are making a difference in our community every day. Thank you, Marjorie.
Oral questions orales. Honorable député.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, ISIS has committed crimes against humanity, against Christians and other religious and ethnic groups. The UK and the US have called this a genocide. Will the Prime Minister finally join the allies of Canada and say that the crimes perpetrated by ISIS are a genocide?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Canada strongly condemns the atrocities and widespread abuses perpetrated by the so-called Islamic State against religious and ethnic communities. Whether ISIL's crimes constitute a genocide is not for us to decide, as it is not a political determination. The determination is a legal one. That is why we share the view of the governments of the US and the UK and the UN Special Advisor on Genocide to the Secretary General that the situation must be the subject of an independent investigation by a competent court or tribunal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canada needs our fighter jets. During the last election campaign, the Prime Minister promised to put in place an open and fair, process to purchase the right planes. Will the Prime Minister pledge to listen to the specialists and to conduct an open study to ensure that our men and women in uniform have the best equipment available to properly serve our country?
Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, I find it rich that the member is talking about open competition, considering that we're going to be sole sourcing the F-35. Right now, we are in the process of doing our due diligence to making sure that we have the right information, but no decision has been made, but we will be replacing the fighter. Thank you.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean.
35 process have been made by Liberals, Mr. Speaker. Whatever, Miss Canada needs new fighters jet, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister claimed during this campaign, and no matter what was stated in his platform, it's now time for him to act like a statesman. Mr. Speaker, will this Prime Minister make the commitment to provide our men and women in uniform the best equipment they need through a transparent and competitive process?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to making sure that our men and women have the right equipment, and we will continue to do so in all our services. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, the brave men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces don't ask for much. They go where we ask them to go, they follow orders dutifully, and they get the job done. The least we can do is help them protect themselves as they protect us. But this, Mr. Speaker, is a Liberal hat trick. They pull our jets out and leave our troops vulnerable. They allow campaign promises to determine equipment purchases instead of the military experts, and they break their promise for an open and competitive process. Why is the minister putting politics ahead of the safety of our men and women in uniform?
Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as a former serving member in combat, I can assure you our government and myself will never be putting our men and women in vulnerable situations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Regina Capel.
Weeks ago, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry stated that ISIS is, quote, killing Christians because they are Christian, killing Yazidis because they are Yazidi, and killing Shiites because they are Shiite. The Obama administration has clearly and unequivocally labeled the atrocities committed by ISIS against these vulnerable minorities as crimes against humanity which constitute a genocide. Yet the Liberal government has the gall to say that there isn't enough evidence and that further investigation needs to occur. Are there any Liberals who are embarrassed that our Prime Minister is afraid to take a moral position and call the murder of innocents a genocide?
Honourable comment for Secretary, the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Let me be clear about what Vice President Secretary of State Kerry actually said. The Conservatives on purpose leave out this paragraph. I want to be clear, says Kerry. I am neither judge nor prosecutor nor jury with respect to the allegations of genocide, crimes against humanity, and ethnic cleansing by specific persons. Ultimately, the full facts must be brought to light by an independent investigation. That's what our government is doing, and that's why we sent a letter, and that's why we've received a response from the Iraqi ambassador thanking us for a strong stand against ISIL.
The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby. Order.
In 2015, the Supreme Court of Canada handed down a historic and unanimous ruling. It recognized a constitutional right to medical assistance in dying in certain circumstances, but instead of doing things right, the Liberals have chosen to play politics with this question of rights. The Liberals refused the opinion of experts. They rejected all substantive amendments moved by the opposition. So how are they going to fix a bill that does not even respect Canadians' rights?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to stand up and speak to medical assistance in dying. Bill C-14, the legislation that we put forward to provide a national framework for medical assistance in dying in this country, a national framework that provides and strikes the right balance between personal autonomy and protection of the vulnerable. This is a significant step forward for us as a country. It certainly respects rights, it balances rights, and it's justifiable and responsible in terms of the time frame we had to put it in place.
For New Westminster Burnaby.
The two courts, the Alberta Court of Appeal and the Ontario Superior Court, say what the Justice Minister just said is wrong, and we trust those court decisions, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals have badly mishandled medically assisted dying. It should have been nonpartisan and evidence-based, and they have made it political. They steamrolled Parliament to pass an unconstitutional bill. Now the Senate is refusing to pass the legislation without the amendments that we proposed. Liberals know full well their bill won't survive a court challenge. Will they now admit that the bill must be fixed, and will they fix it?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, I disagree with the premise of the question. And the reality is, with respect to the court decisions from Alberta and otherwise, those court decisions were with respect to specific amendments that were in place prior to June the 6th. They were not decisions with respect to Bill C-14, the legislation that we've put forward. The Supreme Court of Canada provides great deference to Parliament to put in place the necessary and balanced approach to medical assistance in dying, and that's exactly what we've done in Bill C-14.
The honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé.
Entirely of their own making. The NDP tried to bring all parties together at the special committee, and we tried to fix the bill at second reading, and then we tried again to fix the bill at report stage. Every step of the way, we proposed a solution based on witness recommendations, and the Liberals just rejected them all. Every step of the way. Will the Liberals finally admit that they've made a mistake, and will they fix the bill to make sure that it respects the rights of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, as my colleague has already indicated, we responded to the Supreme Court of Canada decision and put in place a piece of legislation that allows Canadians to have the autonomy that they require to access medical assistance in dying while simultaneously upholding the protection of vulnerable people. It is our hope that the Senate will deal with this legislation and that we will be able to, as soon as possible, allow Canadians who want that access to have it, but we want to also at the same time make sure that vulnerable people are protected, and we will do the work necessary.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the government has to stop misrepresenting the facts. It is entirely possible to protect vulnerable people and guarantee Canadians' rights. All the opposition's proposals to make C-14 compliant with the Charter and with the Carter decision were rejected by the government. Therefore, the Senate is now making the same proposals. If the bill is not amended, it will be challenged. Mr. Speaker, how can the Liberals justify forcing sick and suffering people to go to court in order to have their rights respected?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Contrary, Mr. Speaker, because of the legislation that we put in place, ideally as soon as possible, people who require dignity in their last days of life will be able to have that access. Right now, unfortunately, there is no legislation in place. There is a patchwork of regulatory processes across the country that does not adequately respect the safeguards that need to be there, and we hope that our colleagues will work with us to see that this legislation passes at the earliest possible date.
Good job. For Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, under fire for ignoring the plight of Yazidis, the minister said, quote, "Acceptance of refugees is based on those who are most vulnerable." Well, hundreds of thousands of Yazidi people have been murdered, tortured, raped, sold into sexual slavery, and forced from their homes at the hands of ISIS. These are the most vulnerable people in the world. ISIS has committed genocide and war crimes against ethnic and religious groups in the country, including Yazidis. Why doesn't the minister feel any urgencies in helping these people?
Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, of course, the situation facing Yazidis is deplorable, but from the beginning, we have welcomed vulnerable refugees as determined by the United Nations, irrespective of religion. In addition, we are admitting other refugees from other countries, including Yazidis, and we are very proud of the fact that we have admitted almost 4 times as many refugees as did the Conservatives.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, department officials on May the 12th admitted that they had processed 9 cases of Yazidis as part of tens of thousands of people brought to Canada via the government's Syrian Refugee Initiative. We then learned that the minister has been approached months ago about a plan to bring 400 Yazidi girls to Canada. He denied hearing about this. Shari Zedek Synagogue in Winnipeg is raising funds to bring Yazidis to Canada, with so many Canadians wanting the government to act on this. Why is the minister completely ignoring the plight of these girls?
Minister of Immigration.
The number 9 is wrong. Our department does not record the nationalities or religions of the refugees. I have, in fact, spoken to the individuals in that synagogue to which the member refers. We had a good conversation. We are working actively to bring those refugees to Canada as soon as possible. So her facts are wrong, Mr. Speaker. We are working very hard to admit refugees of all descriptions, including Yazidis.
The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, in Saint-Hubert, in my county, people have gathered $25,000 in order to provide for a family of refugees. They rented a house, they renovated it, and I visited it myself. I have photos here. The photos of the family are on the fridge, but those people are still waiting for an arrival date. The Liberal campaign boasted about how fast they were going to admit refugees. Will the minister respect the people in the regions and promise that this family will be welcomed here by this summer? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, we have already accelerated the process. a few weeks ago, I said that if people had applied before March 31st, then those people would arrive in Canada before the end of 2016 or early next year. Our challenge is that there are so many Canadians who are so generous that it is difficult to admit refugees at the pace required. So we have sped up the process, but it is good news to hear that Canadians are so generous.
Lampton.
Mr. Speaker, my riding has been waiting 5 months for the arrival of Syrian refugee families. Local groups have raised money and paid rent on housing. The Liberals' inaction has cost my constituents over $10,000, and they are frustrated. While many government-sponsored refugees in other ridings are having trouble making ends meet, funds raised in my community for the needs of refugee families are going to waste. Why has the minister failed these refugee families?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I am extremely proud of what our government has done on refugees, and I am even prouder that Canadians have been so extraordinarily generous that we are having trouble keeping up with the demand from all these generous Canadians who want to host refugees. Now, that is a wonderful thing. Unique in this world, I would say, that we are so welcoming, and we are accelerating the process to let these refugees in as quickly as we possibly can.
For Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, like other charitable Canadians, the Unitarian Church of Calgary raised funds, collected donations of household goods, and completed paperwork to privately sponsor a refugee family fleeing Iraq. After doing all this work, the Liberals nullified their application by changing the mix to admit more government-sponsored refugees and fewer privately sponsored ones. Would the minister explain his thinking in frustrating generous Canadians who are volunteering their time and money to help refugees?
Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I think I've answered that question. And it's more than a little passing strange that these same Conservatives who wanted us to slow down are now telling us to speed up. And these same people who let in only about a quarter of the number we let in, the same people who deprived refugees of basic health care, which was unconstitutional, I don't think they have the right to criticize us on refugees.
Honourable Member. Everyone's looking forward to the weekend, I see. Order. The Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, the Immigration Committee has heard testimony from Syrian refugees. They are stuck in bug-ridden apartments, they are isolated without language training services, and they are cut off from the job market. Can the Minister tell the House when he will start providing refugees with the tools they need to thrive in Canada? Thank you.
Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, we already are providing them with tools to the extent that 99% of them have permanent housing, and we are making great progress on the question of jobs and language. But I just heard today that the Liberal government has been incredibly efficient. Just in committee today, I released the following numbers, that whereas we had budgeted to spend $455 million on refugees, we ended up spending $136 million less, so we saved money for the taxpayers of Canada.
The Honourable Member for Desate Mississippi Churchill River.
The Minister came to La Loche and promised, quote, the federal government will be there in weeks, months, and indeed years to come. Yet since the shooting in La Loche, the much-needed services are piecemeal and inadequate, and the federal government is nowhere to be found. Will this government now make good on their promise and ensure that La Loche has the culturally appropriate mental health services it needs?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, our thoughts remain with the community and the survivors of the terrible tragedy that took place in La Loche. We undertook, as the honourable member knows, to stand with the Lalashan area for the long haul to build a stronger, safer and healthier community. We continue to work with the province of Saskatchewan, the village and the adjacent First Nation community to provide health supports, ensure safety at schools, the hospital and the community at large, and to provide new and better opportunities, such as working to bring back the Project Venture for young people. Thank you.
For Timmins, James Bay.
I want to thank the Health Minister for visiting Kashechewan and Attawapiskat with me last week. It's ground zero in the Indigenous health crisis. Now, the Minister met people who've lost loved ones because there were no doctors, and children with respiratory illnesses because Tylenol was the only medication available. And yet there was no money in the budget for the shortfalls, and she didn't make any new commitments on health services to the region. So simple question, the youth and leaders will be in Ottawa next week. Will she be willing to put the money on the table so we can end this discriminatory, substandard, third world health standard?
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member knows, we did have a very important visit to both Attawapiskat and Kashechewan last week, and I know that the young people from Attawapiskat are coming to Ottawa next week. I want him also to know that yesterday I met with the Assemblies of First Nation National Youth Council and had an excellent meeting discussing these very issues. We talked about strategies for mental health. We talked about what programs are being successful, and we will work with them to implement the most successful programs available.
Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are intentionally grounding our fighter jets. Our Conservative government announced a $400 million life extension project for our CF-18s to keep our fleet operational till 2025. But the Liberals have not invested a single dollar or awarded a single contract for the life extension project. They're intentionally creating a capability gap solely based on politics. Why is the Defence Minister allowing the Prime Minister to play politics with the replacement of our CF-18s?
Honourable Minister of Defence.
Mr. Speaker, just to correct the record here, is if it wasn't for the mismanagement of procurement by the previous government, we wouldn't have had to actually extend the CF-18s. We should have purchased new ones, so we didn't have this gap that's being created. But don't worry, Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to replacing the F-18s, and we are diligently working towards this. Thank you.
For Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the credibility gap is on the Liberal front bench, and is the only reason why our Air Force could experience a capability gap. The Liberals are ignoring the Royal Canadian Air Force, they're ignoring industry, and they're ignoring the academic experts. And now they're refusing to continue the CF-18 life extension project. And this decision will endanger the lives of our fighter pilots. Will the Defence Minister tell the Prime Minister to stop playing politics with a decision that can jeopardize the security and safety of our troops and our nation?
The Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, because of mismanagement, we have no choice but to extend the CF-18s to 2025, and we are working towards that. But it's still, the gap does remain, and we're going to making sure that we're going to be replacing our CF-18s. And we are working diligently to making this happen because our men and women deserve the best equipment to carry out their missions. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Chalbourg, St. Charles. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, all the reports confirm that the government has already made its choice to buy the Super Hornet, so they just have to patch something together so that they can get a narrative for it. Now, once again, this should be in the higher interests of the Canadian forces, but if that's the case, can the minister tell us with whom in the industry he is in contact besides Boeing to replace the F-8C?
Speaker, we have a lot of information, obviously, because we have been part of the F-35 program. Our officials are working and gathering the information. No decision has been made yet, and when we have the appropriate information, we will be making Canadians aware of this and this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Charlebourg, St. Charles. The more time goes on, the more time they're taking to make a decision. They should not be acquiring this for interim capability. And so why don't they immediately launch an open and transparent competitive process to replace the F-18s? If it's so urgent, why are they dealing with Boeing to create jobs in the U.S.?
Mr. Speaker, as I stated many times before, no decision has been made yet. We are working towards this. As I stated, we are committed to replacing the F-18, and our officials are working diligently towards this, to making sure that we purchase the right fighter for the capabilities of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
Honourable député de Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Mr. Speaker, Ms. Hoodfar, an anthropologist who teaches at Concordia, is now in Evan Prison, where political prisoners are often held. What's most worrisome is that she needs medication to stay healthy, and there's no way of knowing if she's getting it. Can the minister tell us exactly what his department is doing to secure the immediate release of Huma Hoodfar? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, the Government of Canada is very concerned with the detention of Dr. Hoodfar in Iran. We remain in close contact with their family. In fact, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and I have met with their family. Our consular officials in constant contact with their family as well. And we have raised this issue with like-minded countries who will help us in raising this issue. Despite the difficulties of not having a diplomatic presence in Iran, we're going to do whatever we can to release Dr. Hoodfar.
Mr. Speaker, after being interrogated by the Revolutionary Guard since March, Canadian Professor Huma Hoodfar was arrested and jailed at the notorious Evan Prison on Monday. Her family are worried sick for her health and safety. And what reason? In 2003, we should remember, another Canadian woman was killed in the same prison. What is the government doing to secure the immediate release of Huma Hoodfar?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I do want to thank the honourable member for raising this issue. This is a very important file. We are very concerned with the well-being of Dr. Hoodfar. Given the realities on the ground, we're raising these issues with our like-minded partners. Because of privacy concerns, I can't get into further details than that, but I want to assure the honourable member and everybody in this House that we're taking this case very seriously.
Member for Scarborough-Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, the Rouge National Urban Park is a result of hard work by many in my constituency. I want to thank them for their commitment to making this vision a reality. They worked for the past 40 years with different levels of government and overcame many, many obstacles. Our government introduced legislation today to ensure that the full potential of this park comes to life. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Environment tell this House how she will protect the environment in North America's largest urban park?
Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to the member for Scarborough-Rouge Park, other Greater Toronto Area colleagues, and the many Canadian stakeholders and citizens for their advocacy and hard work on Rouge National Urban Park, Canada's first national urban park within 1 hour of 7 million Canadians. Today, I'm thrilled that we're taking the legislative steps required to strengthen the ecological protection for the Rouge while respecting and promoting a vibrant farming community within the park. In close collaboration with the Government of Ontario, we're confident that this will lead to the expansion of the Rouge National Park to close to 80 square kilometres. What a great present to Canada for our 150th birthday.
Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Mr. Speaker, in the past, the Liberals consulted Emmett McFarlane on constitutional matters. Perhaps they should consult him again on electoral reform. Here's what he says. I can't think of a good reason why Canadian voters should not be consulted on whether they favour the proposed new system over the status quo. And he also says, surely it would be a sad irony to bring in a new electoral system when a majority of Canadians might have rejected it in a popular vote. Isn't Professor McFarlane right? Isn't there a need for a national referendum before we change the way in which we elect members?
So Democratic Institution.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question and remind all members in this House that the Special All-Party Committee that has now been agreed upon is going to reach out to experts and academics, but Canadians from all walks of life. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, our decision will be informed by the work that all 338 MPs in this place do in reaching out to their constituents and bringing their hopes and aspirations into this conversation.
The honourable member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't seem to understand that a Toronto Star commentator said that the Liberals seem to be out of sync with Canadians on the referendum question. In the Devoir, they said Canadians won't have the final word because the government is putting aside the idea of a referendum. Does the minister realize that you can't change the way we vote without a referendum? It seems that that's what everyone's telling them. The honourable minister.
As I have mentioned in this House before, I have a great deal of respect for a free and independent press. I don't believe that there's anything more important to democracy than a well-informed electorate. I also believe that the opportunity we have before us in this House, as we review opportunities and options available to us to modernize our electoral system, requires us to reach out to those Canadians who do not have the platform that many of us enjoy. Reaching out to those Canadians is an important priority of mine, and I'm looking forward to what members from all 338 ridings bring to the committee to add to their report.
Well said. Honourable member for Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, recently the Prime Minister told the Toronto Star that it's not up to any one person, even if it's the Prime Minister, to define exactly what the right system is. But as per usual, his actions don't match his words. If it's really not about politicians and their preferred system, he'll listen to all Canadians. And 3/4 of Canadians are calling for a referendum prior to any changes on their electoral system. So if the Prime Minister is really open to listening to Canadians as he claims, will he hold a referendum and give Canadians the final say, yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister, and indeed all of us, heard from Canadians loud and clear when over 60% of them voted for electoral reform, that the best way to go about this process is not to make the decision on their behalf, but to go out and reach out to them and hear from them how they'd like to go about this process. That is why we committed to bringing forward a special all-party committee to review the options available, and I'm looking forward to the work that all 338 MPs will do to enhance the work of that committee.
Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, I want to come back to the fact that the government has misled this place on the question of ISIS genocide. The government denies the recognition of the genocide by the United States, even though Secretary Kerry said, quote, Daesh is responsible for genocide and is genocidal by self-proclamation. But the government also says that they need an international tribunal of lawyers to declare a genocide. Yet this House recognized the Armenian genocide as such in 2004 without an international judicial process. It's true the Liberal government voted against that recognition. Are they now saying that the Armenian genocide didn't happen because it hasn't been recognized by an international tribunal?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
It's very important that we recognize the Armenian genocide, and also that we recognize the fact that it was 100 years after the fact, which makes it a special, extraordinary circumstance. Canada continues to stand side by side with our allies, including the US, the UK, the EU, and the UN, and we will contribute all we can to hold the perpetrators to account for their atrocities. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has made a formal request to the UN. We have heard back from the ambassador from Iraq thanking our Foreign Affairs Minister, our Prime Minister, and Canada for its strong stand against ISIL in Iraq. The determination of genocide should be illegal.
Now, a member for Rimouski-Nejet. Mr. Speaker, this morning at the Finance Committee, the parliamentary budget officer appeared, and the Liberals had promised to strengthen the PBO's role by making him truly independent and giving him the resources he needed to do the job well. But 7 months later, we're still waiting. Nothing's changed. But the clock's ticking. All it takes is a simple amendment to the Act, and the member for Outremont's private member's bill would do the job. Why aren't the Liberals making the PBO independent and properly funded? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
For his question, and we have tremendous respect for and support for the work of the Parliamentary Budget Officer. We will continue to work closely with his office. We also would like to draw attention for the honourable member to what the PBO has said recently about what this government has done to render the budget and estimates process more transparent and open. We will continue to view his work as being important and to work to establish a more open and transparent government and budgeting process for Canadians.
The honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, the federal government's Community Pastures Program helped restore and protect millions of acres of native prairie grasslands for both agriculture and conservation, until the successful program was canned by the Conservatives. Now, management is being transferred to the provinces with no conditions or even an environmental assessment and some of this public land is now being sold to private interests. Saskatchewan's prairie grasslands are among Canada's top 10 endangered places. Will this government now put the transfers on hold and restore the community pastures program?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate my honourable colleague's question. And as he's well aware, the previous government begun the transfer of these pastures a number of years ago. But I will be having further discussions with my officials will be having further discussions with the provinces on the process regarding the divestiture of community pastures. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou.
When the Liberals would start funding the Cenotaph program again. The Minister for Veteran Affairs claimed to be on top of it, but we have heard nothing since. The Liberals don't like military symbols, and it's clear honoring our veterans is no longer a top priority for them. Mr. Speaker, when will the minister do what he said he was going to do and reinstate the funding for the Cenotaph program?
The Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, I thank the member for his question. I can tell on this side of the House it is important to us that we honor and respect the men and women who have served this great nation boldly in the Canadian Armed Forces. And that's through any theater we have participated in, whether that be from Juno Beach through our peacekeeping missions through Afghanistan and the like. We'll continue to do that. We've restored that in Budget 2016 with a committed, dedicated program to fund our community war memorial programs and community events.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But there's more to it. With budget cuts to the Cenotaph program, the monuments to those who served us honorably and those who unfortunately died, the government apparently is not willing to pay the small price it takes to commemorate the massive price those people paid. When is the program going to be restored? The Honourable Minister.
Absolutely not true. The Conservatives had a piecemeal approach that they had to go back from time to time, year after year, to reinstate. And in fact, it had run its course. This government is so committed to honoring the men and women who have served this great nation that we've committed to this in our full budget cycles, that we can honor and respect those on a regular, ongoing fashion, and that's what this government will continue to do.
Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, between 2001 and 2014, 40,000 Canadian Forces members served in Afghanistan, including 158 who made the ultimate sacrifice. These brave men and women deserve recognition, and yet the Minister of Veteran Affairs has not confirmed when or if the National Memorial for Canada's mission in Afghanistan will be built. If this minister claims to treat our veterans with care, compassion, and respect, then why is he refusing to give them the recognition that they deserve?
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
I couldn't agree more with this member that we have to honor those men and women who have served this country bravely and honorably in our Afghan mission. We will do that in my work with Canadian Heritage, in fact, with those members who served on that mission. I'll remind that party they announced the project twice and didn't get built under their watch. We're going to do this and continue to honor those men and women who have served this great nation boldly and bravely.
Well, member for Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon.
Yes, Sir Speaker. Canada's total merchandise trade with the Pacific Alliance, a grouping of Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Mexico, reached $46.2 billion in 2015. In fact, the four countries account for more than 70% of Canada's two-way trade with whole Latin America region. Can the Minister of International Trade update this House on what she is doing to promote deeper economic and people-to-people linkages with this important region? Thank you.
Honourable member for the Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mexico City, I was proud to sign a joint declaration making Canada the first country to enter into a strategic partnership with the Pacific Alliance, one of the most important economic blocs in the Americas. This is another example of our government's progressive approach to promoting trade and investment with fast-growing markets across the world. This initiative will help diversify our trading partners and create good-paying jobs for middle-class Canadians.
Honourable member for Richmond Centre.
Mr. Speaker, last election, the Liberals promised to continue the small business tax cuts
brought in by Conservatives. Instead, once in power, they broke that promise and raised their taxes. And just last night, the Liberals actually voted against a motion that would allow them to follow through on their promise. Why did the Liberals break their promise and turn their back on our job creators?
Honourable Minister of Small Business and Tourism.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Speaker. Budget 2016 focuses on growing our economy for all Canadians. We know that a healthy economy improves business conditions for small and medium-sized enterprises and Canadian businesses. We know that helping Canadian consumers and families will help businesses as they are their customers, and we can better sell their goods and services. A better economy for all Canadians and more revenue for business helps everyone. This will make a stronger economy for all Canadians. That is the good work we're doing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked a question about the surtax the Americans have slapped on supercalendared paper exports. The answer was they've called for a binational committee. For months I've been prodding the government, and still no special committee. Clearly the government is dragging its feet. Even the Premier of Quebec isn't reassured. 184 workers at the Kenogami plant will be out of work for 11 days. Will the Prime Minister stop pretending to be on it and then taking his phone off the hook? The Honourable Minister of International Trade. Mr. Speaker, we are concerned about what the U.S. is doing in connection with this matter. We're in regular contact with our stakeholders. My team is also in contact with the provincial forestry ministers. We have called for the creation of a special binational task force under Chapter 19 of NAFTA, and today we're continuing with official procedures to establish a WTO panel. We will defend Canada's interests. The honourable member for Avignon. Mr. Speaker, the Minimum Age Convention 1973 is one of the fundamental conventions of the International Labour Organization at the heart of the promotion of decent labour. International labor standards influence labour laws and practices and help improve working conditions all around the world. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labour tell the House what the government is doing about working conditions all around the world?
Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday in Geneva, the Minister announced our government's ratification of the International Labour Organization's Convention on Minimum Age. This convention requires ratifying countries to set a minimum age for employment of at least 15 years and to prohibit hazardous work for young workers. This sends a clear message about Canada's values and shows children's rights are not only a moral but as well a legal obligation. We stand together with countries around the world denouncing child labour, exploitation and abuse, and we continue working towards the full international respect for fundamental rights for workers.
Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, today's genocide debate reminds us that these Liberals are just not that interested in international human rights. That's becoming very obvious as we learn about another Liberal smoke and mirror show. Their new Office of Everything to replace the Office of Religious Freedom is not actually a separate office at all. It's just a line within the Department of Foreign Affairs without an ambassador. So how about an actual office with an actual ambassador, with an actual mandate and actual responsibilities?
Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. How about an actual Office of Human Rights, Freedoms and Inclusion? The new office expands on the work of the former office and holds a comprehensive vision to include all human rights, of course including the freedom of religion. In order to support this approach, our budget, dedicated to the promotion of human rights, has tripled. Canadians are stronger not in spite of our differences, but because of them. Promoting acceptance and protecting the differences that make us so unique cannot be divided. They are universal, indivisible, and interdependent. Thank you.
Now, member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec Bar Council for the Carter family, the renowned constitutional expert Peter Hogg, the Bloc Québécois, and the NDP all called for it. Now the Senate has amended C-14 by striking out reasonably foreseeable natural death to allow the most vulnerable of people access to medical assistance in dying? Why is the Justice Minister stubbornly denying the right of self-determination to the most vulnerable people in society, those who have a grievous and irremediable medical condition that causes them intolerable suffering? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With respect to the amendment that the Senate voted in last night, this reflects and puts forward a substantive amendment to C-14. We sought to thoughtfully consider this complex matter to ensure that we respect the rights of all Canadians and balance those rights, balance personal autonomy with respect for the vulnerable. This is a momentous change in our country in terms of what we're doing with respect to medical assistance in dying. We need to take a responsible approach that is reasonable, and this is what we've found in Bill C-14.
The honourable member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, once again the minister is avoiding my basic question, so let me rephrase it. Given that medical assistance in dying requires free and enlightened consent in a deliberate and voluntary fashion, by what right is the minister going against the desire for autonomy of the most vulnerable members of society, those whose suffering is intolerable, knowing that she is forcing them to go to court? They have to go or on a hunger strike in order to get justice.
Of justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've said in this chamber before, the Supreme Court of Canada, courts do not hold a monopoly on the promotion or protection of human rights. Parliament plays a role in terms of being an ally to the vulnerable. We've sought in a very considered way to put forward a piece of legislation that will provide a national framework for medical assistance in dying in this country. And just because there are constitutional risks with respect to a particular piece of legislation does not mean that the bill is unconstitutional.
I'd like to call attention of honourable members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable
Susan Aglukark. Marie Chouinard. Ben Hepner. Robert Lantos. Robert Lantos. Suzanne Lebeau. And the Ramon John Natition Award for Volunteerism in Performing Arts, John D. McKellar. I invite all honourable members to meet the recipients at a reception in room 216 North after question period. I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Ed Doherty, Minister responsible for Service New Brunswick, Aboriginal Affairs and the Economic and Social Inclusion Corporation for the province of New Brunswick. And now I call upon the honourable member for Regina Capel for the usual Thursday question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was wondering if someone from the government could inform the House as to what we will be debating for the remainder of this week and next week when we return back from our constituencies.
And the Honourable Minister for Small Business and Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would love to inform the House what the plan is. So this afternoon we will continue debate on the Conservative opposition motion. Tomorrow we will resume debate on Bill C-15, the budget legislation. We have been in discussion with our opposition colleagues, and I hope we will conclude third reading at the end of day tomorrow. Monday and Tuesday of next week will be allotted days On Wednesday, we will have a debate on concurrence of the 5th report of the Standing Committee on Transport concerning the transportation of grain. Following that debate, we would then take up second reading of the Bill C-13, which implements the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement. On Thursday, we will resume third reading debate on Bill C-6, Citizenship Act amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And the Honourable Chief Government Whip is rising on a point of order.